Risk management is at the heart of what we do. Our deep-rooted industry and technical expertise enables us to manage the unique risks your business faces.
Welcome back. We're discussing the issue of cybercrime, and still joining me via Zoom is Simon Coleman, Managing Executive of Digital and Financial Lines at SHA Risk Specialist, and Simon Campbell, Young CEO of My Cyber DNA. Gents, thanks so much. Before the break, we were talking about just how vulnerable all businesses are. We mentioned that the healthcare sector, particularly being targeted now, Life Healthcare recently making the news because of that cyber attack. So what can firms do here? We've spoken at length about how at risk businesses are, but surely there must be something that they can do. So what should firms be looking at?
Bronwyn, I think, the start really is, and hopefully someone who's watching this now is already getting their awareness peaked. Because that really is the first step, is getting an awareness of cyber and making sure that people in the company, in the team, doesn't matter how big or small the business is, everyone who's got access to a device that's connected to the internet should really have some kind of awareness training. We're obviously lucky in corporate because these things tend to be, the digital solutions where you have to do a test every week. In smaller businesses, though, it can be as simple as just getting everybody together. There's a ton of material on YouTube. I know in Simon's business, they've got some very interactive training tools that really do a lot to kind of get people talking and thinking about cyber.
Are we seeing
if I can just comment,
sure.
I think that, sorry, Bronwyn, thanks. I think for us, the main thing is education, is to make sure that 90% of your staff or your family or all of them are aware of what's happening in the cyber landscape and what the level of threat is. And certainly just be aware of where the market's moving in terms of cyber, and just ensuring that to some level you've got a cyber awareness hat on, and that you understand where that landscape is moving to. We find that that's absolutely critical going forward.
So awareness, absolutely critical. Are we yet seeing the shift from companies being proactive rather than reactive? So what I mean is they're preparing for these things and trying to stop them before they happen rather than just dealing with the fallout. Is that shift happening quick enough? Is that shift even happening at all?
Yeah, so if I can answer that, initially, we're seeing a massive shift in terms of awareness. We're seeing a lot more CEOs, MDs, CIOs, CTOs in the larger and the small to medium businesses starting to understand that cyber awareness landscape. We're seeing organizations starting to come to terms with the fact that a ransomware as a small business of 100,000 Rand or a loss of 50,000, 60, 200,000, that's relevant. It's very relevant to a South African small to medium business owner. And we're starting to see a huge migration to those business owners and those people responsible for cyber inside those organizations starting to now reach out and say, right, guys, we need help. Please give us a view of the solutions that are available.
Because cyber attacks can be costly, right? And I mean, for companies that care about the bottom line, they should really be looking at this. Simon, I know you mentioned that that research that you did. Do you have any figures there in terms of just how costly this exercise can be? Because we've mentioned companies being held to ransom, and surprisingly, some companies actually do pay those ransoms as well.
Yeah, thanks, Bronwyn. I mean, that was I guess, no surprise to us that ransoms were being paid, because really, as we said, step one is kind of the awareness. Step two would be making sure you've got backups and some kind of antivirus protection, firewalls, etc. But you'd be amazed at how few small businesses actually do regular backups of their data. And it's because of that when they get hit with ransomware, they don't have the option of kind of reinstalling the database. The only way they're going to get the decryption code and get back to work is by paying. And of course, as soon as you pay, in our research, the average ransom was around about 25,000 Rand. And we found that around about 25% of businesses actually ended up paying the ransom. And out of that 25%, a further 20% got hit a second time. Because of course, if you are randomly selected when you first get hit with the ransomware, that's fine. Pay, you're no longer in the random pool, you're in the paying client pool. And they are going to come back to you. So we definitely saw that. But I have to say those numbers were actually dwarfed by the cost of business interruption or downtime. We had a significant number of businesses, around about 12%, that said that they'd had a business interruption that cost them in excess of R1 million in downtime. And as we said earlier, if you're a business that trades online retailer, a stockbroking business, those losses can stack up faster than you can imagine. Just a day, and a fortune is lost. So I think those are the hardcore numbers. That look, even a larger business would not want to lose R1 million, especially in the economic climate that we're trading in now. Yeah. Let alone an SME. That's the difference between being here today and not being here tomorrow.
Absolutely. So then it makes sense that you should take out insurance to guard yourself against this. Are there tailor-made insurance options for cybercrime specifically, or are you covered by your insurance policies that you would have as a business just anyway now?
Yeah, the short answer is no. You're not covered under your normal insurance policy because those policies normally require some kind of physical damage to property, and it's always limited to specific perils like storm, flood, fire, that kind of thing. Whereas cybercrime is really dealing with an intangible asset, and it's not normally covered by those policies. So there are specific covers that have been designed. I mean, Simon and I have been working on a project now for over a year. We have something that we're working on together and releasing shortly. We're really looking at the SME sector and saying, look, a combination of risk management services and insurance to cover those business interruption costs, the ransomware, the forensic costs, etc. That's really the package of insurance cover that an SME should be looking at. And I mean, I'm in insurance, and obviously we would like to sell policies. But really, if you were looking at cutting back on insurance now, in a time when cybercrime is spiking, this would not be the policy to cut back on or not to have.
Yes, insurance is always somehow a bit of a grudge purchase, but we've kind of highlighted SMEs throughout. I want to spend a little bit of time on that because some would argue SMEs are more at risk given what's currently happening. We highlight that it's the smaller companies where people are using personal devices to carry on working from home. Those devices could be used by other people in the family, so there's a lot of risk for SMMEs at the moment. You also and I highlighted, insurance is often a grudge purchase. People are counting pennies at the moment. So if SMMEs wanted to look at this, can they tailor their insurance? Is there a way for them to get coverage, but not... Because what I'm trying to say is that a top 40 company's needs would be so much different to an SMME. Can the insurance then reflect that, although both are just as vulnerable, perhaps?
Yeah, thanks, Bronwyn. If I can just answer a few points there. What we've spent a lot of our time on is creating the right solution very specifically for those SMMEs. To a large degree, an SMME really needs to focus on his business, and he doesn't have the external resources to focus on, a sophisticated cyber liability solution or implementing X, Y, and Z contingencies. What they really need is generally they need a very slick, very clever risk mitigation based solution. And that's where we've spent quite a bit of time developing the solution that provides the SME a solution that is to a certain extent a defensive posture, that's protecting that perimeter, and then to a large degree an advanced threat detection and monitoring solution, which is an easy to use, very simple solution that an SMME business can run on a simple dashboard. We find that that's a critical component right now, and as Simon pointed out, we've been working on a solution for quite some time now, and we'll very shortly be taking that to market.
Simon, you want to jump in there?
Yeah, I do. Bronwyn, we also noticed that, put it this way, when we do corporate cyber insurance, there's a 15-page application form that has to be completed. And I can tell you that the average director in a company cannot complete that. The CIO or the CTO, someone who's in charge of their cybersecurity environment, has to fill it in. So we realized that we couldn't expect an SMME to fill in that same form. People hate forms for a start, but it was just so technically heavy. And that's why we decided to partner with My Cyber DNA, because we were really looking at something that kind of says, look, put in your IP addresses and a couple of other things. We start doing some scanning. We start building up some data. There's maybe 10 questions that need to be answered. But it's, as Simon said, it's so integrated that you're almost starting the risk management process as soon as the insurance application begins. Rather than having to go through this long, drawn-out, complicated process, which, to be honest, after filling in a 15-page document, you might get to the end, and the insurer would still say, okay, sorry, we didn't like subsection 13A, B, and C, so we can't actually insure you. And then further to that, beyond the application process, we also realized that when things go wrong, Simon hates it when I make this comparison, but when your geyser bursts at home, you don't want to speak to your insurance guy. You actually want to speak to a plumber. So when your system goes down, when you get hacked, you don't want to speak to the insurance guy. You want to speak to somebody that can kind of help you figure out what happened and start putting the pieces back together. And I think that is why the integrated kind of risk and insurance solutions fit so well together. And really, it's any SMME who's looking to get involved in cyber, I think would be missing something if they just focused on the insurance without these risk mitigation services that go with it.
Gents, on that note, we're going to have to leave it there. We will wait with bated breath to see what you release and those products that you are talking about. But thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you very much.
Thanks to my guests. That was Simon Coleman, Managing Executive of Digital and Financial Lines at SHA Risk Specialist, and Simon Campbell, Young CEO of My Cyber DNA. And that's where we leave things for now.
Risk management is at the heart of what we do. Our deep-rooted industry and technical expertise enables us to manage the unique risks your business faces.